Coming in the NBA, Zion Williamson was one of the most hyped players in modern NBA history. He drew comparisons to Charles Barkley and some people hype level LeBron James. And that's just how good Zion was. And in the NBA, these last two seasons, he's lived up to those expectations and maybe even been even better, even though it's not talked about enough. So Zion coming into the NBA just had a monster season from Duke where he looked like the best player on both ends. He has famous people like Drake wearing his jersey, and Zion, he looked so good. He looked like the next star franchise player, face of the NBA that we knew would be so good. But looking at his physique, he's 6'7", 284 pounds, and that's pretty much destined for injuries. Now, we saw he got injured in college, like his shoe broke or something, and he missed most of his rookie season. He had, I'm not completely sure what it was, but he missed a large chunk of it. But when he came back, he was so good. He averaged like 23 points a game, amazing efficiency, and yes, he did have some flaws like his three-point shot, his defense, but this was the Zion we expected, and he was only like 19 years old, 20 years old, and that was so impressive. So in the second season, there were some pretty high expectations for Zion, and he lived up to all of it, and personally, he exceeded my expectations, averaging 27 points, 7 rebounds, about 4 assists, and I was really impressed first with his playmaking. He was playing point Zion led by Stan Van Gundy, and he was getting teammates open shots, just running an offense like a point guard when he's 6'7", 284, which is so impressive. Now, his body, of course, is still a big problem, as seen with, like, he looks skinnier in the offseason videos, but when we looked at the media day, he kind of looked a bit fatter, but I still think Zion, no matter what, is just always going to have the athleticism, and yes, you want him to keep his weight in check, but I think he's still really young, and I think he just needs a veteran to assist him. Yes, he has someone like Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, but if you look at his player comparison, Charles Barkley, he had vets in Julius Erving, Moses Malone, which are all-time greats that really guided him to become who he is. Now, I'm not saying that the Pelicans should trade for LeBron just to mentor Zion, but you need at least someone like, I don't know, like a Jared Dudley, someone who has experience in the NBA and can teach these young guys, which I think Zion has the work ethic to get better. So, the topic of today's video, what is going on with Zion Williamson? I mean, he just had an injury with his foot. Now, it isn't like a severe injury like that Kevin Durant injury in OKC where he missed the whole season, but it's still an injury for someone who injuries might derail his whole career, and I'm praying that Zion, I love to see Zion on the floor, he's so fun to watch, but there's definitely a reason to be concerned, and I don't know, there's just also been some tensions with the Pelicans organization and Zion. If you look at this offseason, Zion said specifically to the management, I want to keep Lonzo Ball, and what do? They let Lonzo Ball walk, even though they had a restricted free agency rights, which isn't a good sign. Lonzo was a pretty good fit with Zion, and they had good chemistry. Zoe was getting his jump shot back, just improving it to even at like a really good clip, and it's definitely a big loss to lose Lonzo and replace him with Devontae Graham. And yes, he's probably a better off-the-dribble shooter, but everything else, playmaking, catch and shoot, defense, passing, I probably said that, but that's definitely not a good sign, and it's definitely a downgrade. Then you have people like, they traded for Jonas Valanciunas, which I think is a really good pick. He can knock down the three ball, is a pretty good defender, can also go in the paint if we need him to, but he can stretch the floor. You have Brandon Ingram. Now, I'm not sure if BI can be the secondary, second star who fits alongside Zion as the franchise player. I think you want more of a guard who can, in crunch time, get a bucket, which I think BI can do, but I think he also needs to be a good defender. Maybe someone I don't know, off the top of my head, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, of course, it's not a. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but a two-way player, which they definitely need. And they have a bunch of young players. Kyra Lewis Jr., who had a lot of potential entering the draft. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think can really break out this year. I think that if Nickeil, he showed so much potential this season, or last season, and I think he has the talent to average 16, 5 and 5 and lead the Pelicans to a play-in team, which I will talk about later. But I really like Na and his potential. Watching, I think, a Clipper game where he dropped like over 30 points. I was super impressed with his finishing, his shooting, just maturity as a player, which was super impressive. And you have people like Jackson Hayes, who still has a lot of talent. But I still think that this management has put a bunch of pieces together, and they just don't really fit. I mean, they have a lot of talent on this team. Yes, it is unproven talent, but there's a bunch of talent on this team, but there's just not really a fit. Oh, these people don't really fit together. I think Zion, no doubt, is the franchise player, and he can be the best player in your team in a couple years. Right now, I wouldn't say so. Hopefully, he can develop his three-point shot and maybe improve his defense. But I still think that this team is good. They just need to get some people like more shooting, more defense, maybe get a reliable coach. He's already had, two coaches already on his third one. But like going back to the tensions, it seemed like Zion's family members didn't want him to go or stay with the Pelicans, which I think isn't really a reliable source, but that's definitely not a good sign. And a franchise player in only his third year wants to leave this small market that isn't like the Lakers or the Celtics or the Knicks, but I still think Zion wants to stay there. If they can build a competent team around him, he will stay. I think he's a really nice person, loves the city of New Orleans, but watching that media day, his body language wasn't amazing. Yes, he said he wanted to stay and everything was being fine, but something isn't right with Zion going on. I think that the Pelicans are still a good team. They have, like I said, they have talent, but can they put it all together? Zion himself, I think, can't be the franchise player, and I think this year the Pelicans can make the play-in if they put everything together. If Na can break out, Zion can take another step, especially on defense. BI can perform at an all-star level. Just their vets performing well. Maybe a couple young players be good, or just take the next step. I really like this Pelicans team, but will they fit together? I'm not sure. Now, just talking about Zion's future, I think he, of course, wants to get the bag. He wants to get that 5-year max extension, but it's definitely concerning that this early, there's already tensions that there's already rumors that Zion wants to leave, which is definitely a really bad sign for this Pelicans organization. They just saw Anthony Davis, their franchise player, who wanted to stay there just after his rookie extension was over. He wanted to leave, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. Another power forward, generational talent leaving, but I think it is possible. They are a small market, or that they aren't the biggest market, but the Pelicans, I still think they need to just get some consistency. They need consistent players. They need consistent coaches. They need consistent management that keep Zion happy. And I don't know, I think the Pelicans and Zion can work out, but the next thing they have to do is they have the talent. They just need to put it all together.